The Slugging-Match by McKendree Carleton, 1845 to 1912. A first-class professional fight. I'm really doing the town. There were thousands on thousands tonight to see a man knock another man down. $2 I willingly paid to view all this muscle and brawn. 'Twas rather too much, I'm afraid, or seemed so the minute was gone. And yet 'tis a study to see the rage gladiatorial of Rome, and grim Spanish bull-baiting glee adopt an American home. That bloodthirsty murderous spite men loudly condemn and possess. Besieged New York City last night with first-class financial success. Hands gloved to comply with the law, gloves hard to comply with the crowd, fists savage as murder could draw, cheers heavy and fervent and loud, stern hisses and shouting of "Woman!" when either too tender they found, tremendous applause when a foeman dropped more than half dead on the ground. 'Twas the soul's blackest hell-woven fibre, all thrilling intensely and fast. The curse of the Tagus and Tiber arrived in New York Bay at last. And victor and vanquished, I learn, came off with more glittering spoil than teacher or preacher could earn in years of the hardest toil. A spectacle pleasing and bright, for many good people delighting. So many good men love a fight when somebody else does the fighting. And 'tis shameful, we mildly agree, and shout our complainings afar. But the facts are no worse than are we. They show to us just what we are. Okay, this is a poem by McKendree Carleton. He was an American poet and writer. He came from Michigan. He was born in rural Michigan and grew up there. Then he went to university at Hilldale College in Michigan, and then he went to work as a journalist, and eventually he became the editor of the Detroit Weekly Tribune. And then he started publishing poetry, and some of it started to become quite popular. And then he went to Boston, and after that he went to New York, and he became a very well-known American poet during his lifetime. Today he's not very well known. Normally his poems are about rural life in the American Midwest, and very typically he writes poems that are narrative poems, and this one is a narrative poem telling about a slugging match. To slug is to hit or to fight. So this poem is telling the story of somebody who goes to a boxing match, to a fight, and everybody is enjoying this, but he also notes that everybody says that violence is a bad thing. Yet here are people delighting and enjoying the violent act of two men hitting each other as hard as they can, and delighting in the fact that one of them knocks the other one down. And this is what people want, and it's really a shameful thing, but this is the reality of humans. Humans are violent creatures, and this reveling in violence is part of human nature, which is not a nice thing. A first-class professional fight. So, professional fight. I'm really doing the town, so I'm seeing all the sights, I'm doing all the exciting things in town, I'm painting the town red. There were thousands on thousands tonight to see a man knock another man down. So thousands and thousands of people had come to see one man knock another man down. They'd come to see violence. $2 I willingly paid to view all this muscle and brawn. So it cost me $2 to see all of this. This was probably quite a lot of money in those days, to see all these muscle and strength. 'Twas rather too much, I'm afraid, or seemed so, the minute was gone. But this seemed a lot of money. This seemed too much after I'd spent it. Yeah, before I was excited about it, $2 for it, but now that I spent the money, and he's reflecting that maybe he shouldn't have done this. And yet, and however, it is a study to see. It's interesting to see the rage of gladiatorial Rome. So it's interesting to see the gladiators of Rome and the grim Spanish bull-baiting glee, and to see the Spanish bullfighting and the happiness of watching these barbaric acts of killing a bull, or one gladiator killing another. And it's interesting to see this in America. In America, this is now something that is at home in America, violence. That bloodthirsty murderous spite men loudly condemn and possess. And here he's talking about the dichotomy within people, that people condemn violence, but violence is already in them. So they're condemning violence, but they've come to see it, and that violence is something that they enjoy. And all of these feelings, they took New York City last night with first-class financial success. So the promoters of this made a lot of money in New York with this fight. Hands gloved to comply with the law. Well, further back, fists were bare fists without boxing gloves, but now there at least are some laws to limit the damage done, to limit the horror of it. Gloves hard to comply with the crowd, but the gloves, they're still very hard because the crowd want to see somebody hurt. Fists savage as murder could draw. So fists, savage fists, the worst. Cheers heavy and fervent and loud, and everybody's cheering, and everybody's excited. Stern hisses and shoutings of woman, when either too tender they found. So here we have a sexist comment, but this is from the 19th century or the early 20th century, and these sort of things are normal. So the crowd was shouting, "Don't be so effeminate, don't be such a woman," when either of the boxers weren't being aggressive enough for the crowd. Tremendous applause when an enemy, a foe, dropped more than half dead on the ground. And everybody was applauded wonderfully when somebody fell to the canvas half dead or more. And that's what they wanted, that's what they were there to see. 'Twas the soul's blackest hell-woven fibre, all thrilling intensely and fast. So it was thrilling and fast and intense, but it was the black side of our soul. It was a contest or an event made from the black side of our soul. The curse of the Tagus and Tiber arrived in New York Bay at last. So the Tagus is a river that goes through Spain and Portugal, and the Tiber is a river that goes through Italy. So clearly this is a match against an Iberian against an Italian. And that this fight, these two strong men have arrived in New York. And victor and vanquished I learn, came off with more glittering spoil than teacher or preacher could earn in years of the hardest of toil. And both of them, the one who won and the one who lost, came with a lot, ended up earning a lot of money, more than a teacher or a preacher could earn in years working as hard as they could. A spectacle pleasing and bright, for many good people delighting. So this was a spectacle, and many people delighted in it. They thought it was wonderful. So many good men love a fight when somebody else does the fighting. So people who are supposedly good people, they love fighting. But when somebody else is fighting, when it's not them that gets hurt, it's somebody else gets hurt. And this they experience vicariously. And 'tis shameful, we mildly agree, and shout our complainings afar. And we say, this is shameful, this is horrible. How can two people hit each other and hurt each other like that? But the facts are no worse than we are. But the reality is that we are like this. They show to us just what we are. They show to us human beings exactly what human beings are like. So he comes to the conclusion that violence is something that is in us, and we might criticize it with the logical mind, but this is something that is in us. This is something that is deeply ingrained. The Slugging-Match by McKendree Carleton.